Samantha Chian, your host with Spirit of Nevada. This episode is brought to you by the Richard Harris Law Firm, helping families and injured victims throughout Nevada for over 40 years. Hope you enjoy the show. Beyond the spectacular lights of the Las Vegas Strip lies some of the most spectacular views. Here in the city, the beautiful landscapes are one of a kind, and so are the people. Every place I visit holds a special memory in my heart. And today, I'm going to tell you the story about how this city never backed down. And what better place to start than the Virgin Valley Heritage Museum. Hi everyone, Sam here with Spirit of Nevada. As always, I enjoy sharing with you all of our adventures. And today, we're in Mesquite, Nevada. Now, we came here about, two and a half years ago, and we were doing shorter episodes, so I don't even know if that counts as featuring all of Mesquite, because there's so many cool things to do, and the people are so friendly. I'm so excited because we are at a museum. I know, surprise museum, Sam and her museums and history. We're at the Virgin Valley Heritage Museum, and we're gonna go inside. So we're gonna be meeting Geraldine, who's the historian of Mesquite. She's a lady that knows it all. And what do you know? She's right here, waiting for me.
Hi, Sam.
Hi.
I'm so glad you could come by the museum.
It's always nice to be back here, and especially when I get invited to a museum, I'm in.
This is an interesting museum too, and the building that we're housed in here is a rock building that was built by the youth in the town during the 40s under a program by President Roosevelt called the NYA, the National Youth Administration, and it gave money to young people who had no source of income, and it actually helped the whole family because they took that money home. So it was great.
You just taught me something new, because I had no idea that we were in a rock building, and this was all because President Roosevelt wanted to make sure that families were taken care of.
Yes.
Super cool.
It's got a real story. Yeah.
And I'm sure you have more stories to tell me.
Yes, I do. I was just here standing next to this old film projector. It came from the one theater in town, and my dad ran this. So these big reels would come in by the mail truck, he'd put it on, he'd show it through this old theater, and when the film stopped, everybody would have to stop. That would be a popcorn break. He'd open it up again and take out the second reel. You know, now, it's continuous, but then one projector. So it was really the cassettes. The big reels went in there.
I'm just in awe, because today it looks nothing like this when you go to see a movie. So this is really neat.
I saw a lot of movies because my dad was a projectorist, so I got to see a movie every weekend night.
So did your family grow up in Mesquite?
Yes, I'm a fourth generation. I have two sets of great grandparents who were early settlers. So Mesquite's really deeply rooted in me and my family. I have grandchildren growing up now who are the sixth generation.
I'm sure
here
you're
in Mesquite.
the coolest grandmother ever.
Well, there's just a lot of history here that means a lot to me. Yeah.
Well, wonderful.
Yeah.
Can you show me something else?
You bet.
All right. I know there's a lot to see in here. Guys, come on.
Our schools here, we've had schools since just really the first day. Education was extremely important when we first moved here, and we've got pictures here of some of the old, we've had tent schools, then we moved up to a rough timber school, and then they just
and these are all in black and white. So these are what
these
year?
Are old.
What year are we looking at for these photos?
05 is the top one there. I have two grandparents there. They didn't know each other then. They didn't know they were going to get married, but two kids there.
What a wonderful timepiece to have in this museum.
Education is always important, as you can see. Then when we moved up into having because they did not have a high school then. So when we moved up into high school, the kids really excelled, and we've had some really good athletes come from this school. Also, there's a photograph here of horses. That's V-Day.
V-Day,
As you
the
came
white
into
V
town,
paint.
you maybe didn't notice there was a V on the mesa. But it's just one of those, spirit things that carry in the wagons big barrels of whitewash. And
It's
that was
remarkable that you were able to even get these photos.
Yeah. And my grandfather got the contract from the government to bus the kids, and didn't have school bus.
Can you see that, Rudy? Can you capture
So
that for our
he took
Imagine
a
riding this bus. My daughter's bus looks a lot different than that.
he took an old truck body and built the bus on top. It moved so slowly, some of the kids would get out and run. Get aside.
They're racing their
Yes,
own bus.
So I suppose exercise is important too. So
You know what? They're knocking two birds out, right?
Their education really has been important. This building also at one time was a hospital, and because we really didn't have medical help in the early days, the babies were born here. There were, first aid, quick before you would be moved on to a hospital or a doctor in a bigger town.
Yeah, because you need a hospital. You're going to have more people, and you're going to have schools.
But she was a nurse. We didn't have doctors, but we had a nurse who was here for a long time. So
I saw a street. Do you have a street named after her?
Yes, we do. It's
I thought maybe that was for her. So now I know.
Our new modern hospital is on Bertha House Street, and that means a lot to us too, because it does honor her. All of us can remember. As you can see what syringes looked like then. It was, scary
I don't really
thing.
like needles.
She
Maybe
didn't
not
drive a
zoom in
car,
on that.
so she'd walk all over town with her bag and her syringes in. So that was how we got medical help. Before that, it was a 12-hour fast horse race run
12 hours.
to
I don't know
St.
how much you
George
can
to
make
get
it
help.
if you have, something
If a
going on.
woman was in distress having a baby, by the time the doctor could get back from St. George, the baby and sometimes the mother would not survive. So it was really, really important
Tough times during
that we
that
had
era.
medical help here. This is just a collection, really interesting, of artists.
Are these local artists that have
Yes,
painted
they
these?
are. There's two that I painted and one that a cousin
Oh,
painted.
you're a painter?
of
Which one? Which pieces are yours?
This is what I painted of the original Relief Society building, which is a building up in town that was
That's beautiful.
built by the women of the Relief Society, which is the women's auxiliary of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, who built it so that they could have a place to gather, and they made quilts. They gathered goods to give to people who are in need. So that is still standing. That is still standing. My great-grandmother was very determined that when it was built, it would not cost the men anything. So they planted cotton on their own. They harvested the cotton, they picked it, and drove it by themselves to wagons to St. George. So
Kind people.
they were. And that's just one of my grandmother's house up there that I painted. It was old, wonderful old house. And just different scenes of
The places here.
yeah. This
Very
is a
nice.
fun.
It's a wonderful collection.
We have some interesting Native American artifacts here. Mesquite, basically, because of the river, was mostly visited by migratory Native Americans. There weren't settlements for them because it was too hot. They were smart enough to know, don't stay in Mesquite, until air conditioning comes.
Tell me a little bit about them and the settlers and how tough it was for them to come here, because like you said, they were rough conditions and you had different settlers. I don't even know who came here before Mesquite was even Mesquite.
Mesquite was a place that was a place to expand from. They came from just up here near St. George, Santa Clara, because they were running out of arable, farmable land. And they looked down to this valley. Soil was good, there was a river, and so they came down here. A group came down and settled in 1880. They built homes, they put in their crops, they dammed the river and brought a canal down almost 7.5 miles, which is a long way to bring the water down for their fields.
That is a long way. And then what was next after that?
2 years later, a huge flood came down, ripping through their canal, took out their canal, their ditches to their fields, took out all of their crops and their homes.
How awful.
Very discouraging. So they left. They abandoned the site. They left.
And
it was rough. The river is the one real big problem here with settling. And a year later, a family from Bunkerville, a polygamous family, a man who had 5 wives and 52 children.
Wait, did you just say 52 children? I have one. Let alone 52
Yes,
would be a lot
so,
at that time.
yeah, you don't even have to think about it. But what it provided were workers. There were 10 strong young men in that family, sons, who came over, and he's got, this man has his workforce, and they really were able to make a go of it. Their family was growing. They're very industrious. But then the Edmunds Act was enacted, which is by the Congress, to outlaw polygamy. So
did he leave?
He became a wanted man. So they left.
And then did somebody come after him?
Yes. Then in 94, sorry.
That's okay. There's a lot for you to remember.
There were some young couples in Bunkerville who married, had looked around, and there was no more farmland. So they came over here, and their advantage was they were young, ambitious, strong. They camped out up at the dam site, and Bill put another dam in, and this was permanent. That was permanent. Yeah, yay.
So I know life was rough back then, and they went through so much just to make it Mesquite what it is today. But I know you have more stuff in the back of the museum. I'd love to see some of it.
We do. Come on back to the back, and we'll show you what we've have back here. And it's sort of a replication of some of the one-room houses that they would build here. Housing was difficult, finding housing. When they first moved here, they lived in their wagon boxes. But when they were able to build a house, it was usually a one-room. Everything was contained in the room.
In one room?
In one room.
So it's not like our houses today, where we have a room, we have a bathroom, we have a living room, and they were only one room.
And you know what? It lasted for a while. I went to school with some kids that there were 12 siblings, and they had grown up in one-room house.
Wow.
The couple had 12 children. But this is just this, it's domestic arts. They did everything. Yes, they grew cotton. They combed it, made it into threads and yarns, wove things. They actually could take the cotton to St. George and get finer fabrics, because they used this to do for rugs. They quilted, made some beautiful things for their beds, and they
all handmade. So we're
cooking.
looking at things that people made from scratch, from nothing. It wasn't like today.
Quilting.
We have a machine and we could just go pick it up at Home
Quilting
Depot or something.
is an amazing handicraft. This is one of the really old quilts.
Oh,
really old quilts, which we're kind of protecting. Each of those items came from someone's special item clothing. Could be kids' school dresses, to a wedding dress, to a man's work shirt. A lot of stories.
Turned it into a beautiful art piece.
A lot of stories in that.
That's nice.
In here you'll see some musical instruments. Music was important. It was important in their church, in their schools.
Come on back.
In the backs of wagons. They'd move organ, pianos, Victrola, the old music. They'd have dances almost every weekend. They had a good life. I mean, they liked being isolated. They felt like they were away from the world. And so they could live the lives the way they wanted, and raise their children, and in peace and quiet.
Sounds like a quaint place.
Yeah, they grew what they ate. They grew what they fed their animals, and so they were quite self-sufficient.
I see that, and it's nice that you've preserved it.
Yes, I'm really grateful for the city to have bought the old buildings. And this is an old organ, which is typical of, this is one of the church choirs.
Oh, church choir.
No, it's a church choir. Oh. There's one of my great uncles who was really musically talented, and he led the church choir.
You're so tied to this museum.
Very much.
I think we picked the right person to interview.
Yes, you did. There are a lot of people still who are progeny of the original settlers, but it's important with the things that are here.
So what do we have here?
Oh, a mess. I hadn't realized it's a mess. But if you can come over here and you can see.
Oh, I can't even get there.
I know it.
Well,
this obviously is the junk closet.
tell me about this photo. I saw you were pointing to it earlier.
Grape growing was very important in the valley. You can see the family out picking and drying their grapes in their fields. You can see the flats. It was a really cash crop. Anything that could be grown was shipped up to Utah by train.
Now that's a family right there that I would want to be neighbors with.
Yes. The Rebbers really did have some fine, and here are a whole pomegranate orchard.
Yum.
So you can see how much growing is done here. It's legend that they took their raisins to a World's Fair and got prizes for it. They really are. They really are great grapes and grapes. Not very many,
Now
I'll tell you.
Grapes. Thank you. So before I have lunch, I'm going to go get some grapes.
There are homes now built pretty much all the way where the vineyards were, but
Well, this is wonderful to see that you've taken time to really focus on each detail of this town, right? From the people that grew the crops, from the people that settled here and came in through the river and made families, and then to the people now today that are it's just so nice to see a place that takes time to keep the old, right, while creating new. So that's what I feel like when I'm here. So
it's cool. Yeah, you can see the change in Mesquite too.
Well, thank you again.
Well, thanks for coming. It's always fun to share our history.
And I enjoy it a lot.
Well, come again.
I will. I'll be back. And we have more to do today. So
good.
We're going to head out and explore the rest of Mesquite.
Well, enjoy Mesquite.
Thank you so much.
You know what? I learned a lot today. And I think it's safe to say that we all learned something new. And Geraldine is just the girl that knows so much about the history of Mesquite. I'm so glad that she took the time to give us a tour. And for those that want to learn more about it, guess what? She has a book, and you can buy it here at the museum, or you can go onto Amazon and get a copy for yourself. Now, Mesquite went through so much to become what it is today. You know that saying, third time's a charm? Well, they truly lived up to it, as they had to go through floods and take their families and move, and it took them 3 times to finally call this place home. So I've really enjoyed my time here, but our journey does not end in Mesquite. We're gonna have part 2, which it will be released, I have no idea, because we still have to continue filming it. And so make sure you check Facebook weekly to see when it will be released. So I'm told we're out of time, so I must say goodbye until next week. I'm Samantha Chion, but you can call me Sam with Spirit of Nevada, brought to you by the Richard Harris Law Firm.
Welcome. Thank you again, and thank you to the Virgin Valley Heritage Museum for having us be a part of your show. So we're excited, and we're glad to be here. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Okay. Yay!
Please say that it was acceptable.
Oh, yeah.